Hello and welcome to my channel. I am so happy and excited that you are here today. This channel is a special place where we learn, grow and improve our English skills together. Here you will find listening stories, educational stories and motivational lessons that will not only help you understand English better, but also inspire you in your daily life. Listening is one of the most powerful ways to learn a language. The more you listen, the more your brain gets used to the rhythm, the sounds, and the flow of English. That is why in every video I share stories that are simple, clear, and full of meaning. Some stories will make you smile, some will make you think deeply, and others will give you the motivation to keep learning and never give up. My goal is to make English learning fun, natural, and enjoyable for you. Don't worry if you don't understand every single word. Just relax, listen carefully, and let your ears and mind slowly get used to the language. Step by step, you will improve, and one day you will be surprised by how much English you can understand and speak with confidence. So sit back, stay with me, and let's begin this wonderful journey together. Thank you for being part of this channel, and remember, every minute you spend listening is a step closer to mastering English. Let's get started with today's story. Now let me tell you a story. There was once a young boy who lived in a small village. He dreamed of climbing the highest mountain near his home. Every day he looked at the mountain and said to himself, "One day I will reach the top." But the path was not easy. The mountain was tall, the rocks were sharp, and the journey was long. Many people in the village told him, "You are too small. You cannot do it. It is impossible." The boy felt sad, but he did not give up. The next morning he put on his shoes, carried some food and water and started climbing. At first the steps were easy, but soon he became tired. His legs were weak and his hands were shaking. He wanted to stop. He wanted to go back home. Then he remembered his dream. He told himself, "If I stop now, I will always wonder what is at the top. But if I keep going, maybe I will see the world in a new way." With that thought, he took another step and then another and then another. Hours turned into a whole day. He fell down many times, but he stood up again. Slowly, step by step, he reached the top of the mountain. When he looked down, he saw the entire valley, the river, the trees, and his small village. It was the most beautiful view he had ever seen. The boy smiled and whispered to himself, "It was worth it. Every step, every fall, every struggle, it was worth it." My friends, this story reminds us that our dreams may seem too high, too far, or too difficult, but if we believe in ourselves and never give up, we can achieve amazing things. Remember, success is not about how fast you climb. It's about never stopping until you reach the top. There was a young man named Jonas who wanted more than anything to speak English with confidence. He studied words, he studied grammar, but whenever he tried to use English with other people, his voice became very small and weak. He was afraid of making mistakes. He thought people would laugh at him or not understand him. One day his teacher told him something simple. Confidence comes from practice, not perfection. If you want to speak and listen well, you must use English in real life. Jonas decided to try. In his town, there was a small place called the English Corner Cafe. Every Saturday, people from different countries went there to practice English with strangers. Jonas was nervous, but he walked inside. His hands were shaking, his heart was beating fast. But the host of the cafe, a kind woman named Anna, smiled at him and said, "Welcome. Here we only have one rule. Speak without fear. Mistakes are part of the fun." Jonas sat at a table with two learners, Maria and Ahmed. Maria smiled and said, "Hello, my name is Maria. Nice to meet you." Jonas wanted to hide, but then he remembered his teacher's words. He smiled and answered, "Hello, I'm Jonas. Nice to meet you too." It was a very simple sentence, but to Jonas it felt powerful. He had spoken without fear, and nobody laughed. That was the first step of confidence. Anna began the first activity, something she called the listening game. She read a short story. "Yesterday I went to the park. I saw a dog chasing a ball. Then I met my friend and we ate ice cream." After she finished, she asked, "What did I do yesterday?" Jonas listened carefully. He didn't try to remember every single word, just the big idea. He answered slowly, "You went to the park, you saw a dog, and you ate ice cream." Anna clapped her hands and said, "Perfect. Listening carefully and repeating the main ideas helps you speak with confidence. Don't chase every word, just catch the meaning. Jonas suddenly understood something. Listening and speaking are connected. If he listened well, he could talk well. The next activity was called the story circle. Each person had to share a short story from their own life. Ahmed started. He said, "Last week I cooked pasta. I put too much salt. My sister said, 'Ahmed, this tastes like the ocean.' We laughed for 10 minutes. Everyone laughed again." Jonas noticed something important. Ahmed's English was not perfect, but his story was funny and clear. Confidence didn't mean no mistakes. It meant sharing with energy. Now it was Jonas's turn. His heart was beating fast, but he took a deep breath. He said slowly, 2 days ago I listened to an English podcast. At first, I understood maybe 40%, but I listened again. The second time, I understood almost everything. I felt very happy. Maria clapped her hands and said, "Wow, that's great." Jonas smiled. He had spoken for almost a whole minute, and the others understood him. His confidence was growing. At the end of the meeting, Anna gave the group one final lesson. She said, "Confidence is not magic. It is built with 3 simple habits. Number 1, listen every day. Listen to music, to stories, to podcasts. Number 2, speak out loud even when you are alone. Read something, then say it in your own words. Number 3, share stories because stories make people listen. People don't remember grammar, they remember stories." Jonas walked home that evening feeling taller, almost like the city streets were smaller and he was bigger. He whispered to himself in English, "Confidence is practice. Confidence is sharing. Confidence is me." For the first time in his life, he believed the words. He knew he would still make mistakes, but he also knew that every mistake was a step forward. And every time he listened, every time he spoke, every time he shared a story, his English would grow stronger and more confident. And from that day, Jonas never stopped practicing. He listened daily, he spoke daily, and slowly, very slowly, his voice became louder, clearer, and full of confidence. There was once a boy named Daniel who dreamed of speaking English confidently. He wanted to travel, he wanted to study, and he wanted to meet people from all over the world. But every time he opened his mouth, fear came first. His sentences broke, his words got stuck, and his voice became quiet. He thought everyone was watching his mistakes. Sometimes he stayed silent, even when he had something to say. Inside, he felt small. One evening, Daniel sat alone in his room listening to an English podcast. The speakers talked so fast that it felt like waves crashing onto him. He could only catch a few words: travel, opportunity, future. For a moment, Daniel wanted to give up. But then he remembered something his grandfather once told him. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action in the presence of fear. Daniel wrote this sentence in his notebook and underlined it. He decided from that moment that he would keep going, no matter how slow the progress, no matter how many mistakes. The next morning, he went to a small park near his home. He carried an English book and read one page out loud. At first, his voice shook. A man passing by looked at him strangely, and Daniel felt embarrassed. But then he smiled and thought, "This is my training ground. This is my gym. If I can speak here, I can speak anywhere." He kept reading until the words came smoother. That day, he learned a secret. The more you speak, the less you fear. A week later, Daniel joined an English club at the local library. The room was full of strangers. His heart raced. His palms were sweaty. When it was his turn to introduce himself, the old fear returned. But he remembered his grandfather's words again, took a deep breath, and said slowly, "Hello, my name is Daniel. I am learning English because I believe it can change my life." The room was silent for a second, then everyone clapped. They didn't clap because his grammar was perfect. It wasn't. They clapped because his voice carried honesty and courage. In that moment, Daniel realized something powerful. And confidence is not about perfection. Confidence is about connection. After the meeting, one of the members, a girl named Amina, came to him and said, "You speak from your heart. That is why people listen. Keep going." Those words stayed with him like a flame in his chest. From then on, Daniel made a daily routine. In the morning, he listened to 10 minutes of English audio. He didn't try to catch every word. He just focused on the main idea. At lunch, he spoke out loud for 5 minutes about anything, what he ate, what he planned, what he dreamed. In the evening, he told himself one short story in English before bed. Slowly, the fear began to fade. One day, Daniel had the chance to meet a foreign visitor in his town. The man asked for directions in English. Daniel felt the old nervousness rise up, but he stood tall and answered clearly, "Go straight, then turn left near the bank. You will see the station." The man smiled and said, "Thank you. Your English is good." Daniel walked away with a wide smile. It was the first time he used English to help a stranger, and it felt amazing. Weeks passed and Daniel's confidence grew. He no longer worried about mistakes because he discovered another truth. Mistakes are teachers. Each time he made an error, he learned a new way to say it better next time. Instead of being ashamed, he became curious. Instead of hiding, he spoke louder. One evening, the English club hosted a storytelling night. Daniel had to tell a story for 5 whole minutes in English. At first he thought, "I cannot do this. 5 minutes is too long." But then he remembered all the small steps he had taken. The park readings, the daily listening, the conversations with strangers. He stood up, looked at the audience, and began. He spoke about his journey of learning English, his fears, and his determination. His voice was not perfect, but it was strong. He even made a few jokes and people laughed. When he finished, the room clapped louder than ever. Some even stood on their feet. That night, Daniel walked home under the stars, and he felt something new inside. Not just confidence, but pride. He understood now that confidence is not a gift given to some people and not to others. It is built step by step with listening, speaking, making mistakes, and never quitting. From that day on, whenever Daniel met someone afraid to speak English, he told them his story. He said, "I was once like you, afraid, shy, silent, but I learned that confidence grows when you practice every day. Listen, speak, share stories. Do not hide your voice. The world is waiting to hear you." And so Daniel became more than a learner. He became an example, a reminder that anyone, no matter how afraid, can rise and speak with confidence if they just keep moving forward. The moral of the story: confidence in English is not about knowing every word. It is about listening for meaning, speaking without fear, and telling your truth even with mistakes. Every time you use your voice, your confidence grows stronger. Once upon a time, in a quiet forest near the mountains, there lived a little green parrot named Lumo. Lumo was small, with bright feathers and curious eyes, but he had one big problem. He was afraid to speak. All the other birds in the forest sang loudly in the mornings. The nightingale sang beautifully, the crow shouted his rough calls, and the owl told wise stories at night. But Lumo, he stayed silent. He listened carefully, but when he tried to copy the sounds, his voice was shaky and he stopped. One day, Lumo whispered to himself, "What if they laugh at me? What if my sound is wrong?" And so he hid his voice. But deep inside, Lumo wanted to speak. He wanted to tell stories, greet the sunrise and sing with the other birds. One morning, the wise old owl noticed Lumo sitting quietly on a branch. The owl asked, "Little parrot, why don't you sing with the others?" Lumo looked down and said softly, "Because I'm afraid. My voice is small and my words might be wrong." The owl chuckled gently. "My dear parrot, every bird has a different voice. The nightingale sings sweet, the crow sings rough, the dove sings soft. None of them are wrong. They're all voices of the forest. You must find yours." Lumo still hesitated, but the owl leaned closer and whispered, "Start small. Say one word, then two. Confidence grows like feathers, one at a time." The next day, Lumo decided to try. He listened to the humans who sometimes walked near the forest. They spoke words in English. Lumo heard them say hello. He practiced quietly. Hello, hello. At first, his voice cracked, but after 10 tries, the word became clear. Later, he heard them say, "Good morning." Lumo tried, "Good morning, good morning." He laughed at himself, but he kept going. The other birds noticed. The crow teased him, "Why are you repeating strange sounds?" But the nightingale smiled and said, "Listen, he is learning something new." Day after day, Lumo listened carefully to the sounds around him. He repeated them, even when they were not perfect. Slowly, his voice grew stronger. His confidence grew like wings. One afternoon, a little boy came to the forest with his father. They sat under a tree, and the boy looked sad. He whispered, "Dad, I'm afraid to speak English at school. Everyone laughs at my mistakes." Lumo heard those words, and something inside him woke up. He flew down to a branch close to the boy and shouted, clear and strong, "Hello! Good morning! Don't be afraid!" The boy's eyes widened in surprise. Then he laughed and clapped his hands. "Dad, the parrot speaks English!" The father smiled and said, "You see, son, even a little parrot is not afraid to try. You must do the same." The boy smiled for the first time that day. He looked at Lumo and said, "Thank you, little parrot. You are brave." From that moment, Lumo was no longer the silent bird. He practiced new words every day, and the forest listened to him with respect. He told stories, he sang greetings, and he became known as the parrot with courage. And whenever someone in the forest felt shy or afraid to speak, the wise owl would point to Lumo and say, "Look at him." Confidence does not mean perfect words. Confidence means using your voice even when it shakes. The lesson of Lumo the parrot: confidence grows when you listen carefully, practice daily, and speak without fear of mistakes. Just like the parrot, every voice is unique and deserves to be heard. Long ago, in a wide-open savanna under the burning sun, there lived a young lion named Arion. Arion was strong, fast, and brave when it came to hunting, but he had one hidden weakness. He was terrible at listening. Whenever the older lions spoke, he grew impatient and wanted to roar instead of listen. Whenever the other animals tried to share wisdom, he interrupted and thought he already knew everything. Because of this, although his body was strong, his mind was restless. He often made mistakes while hunting or got lost when he didn't follow the directions of the herd. One day, his father, the great lion of the savannah, said to him, "Arion, strength without listening is like fire without light. You burn but cannot guide." These words confused Arion, but he respected his father, so he stayed quiet. Still, he didn't fully understand. One evening, while the sky turned red with sunset, Arion wandered near the river. There he met an old turtle named Tano. Tano was slow but wise, and he had travelled far across rivers and deserts. Arion laughed when he saw him and said, "Old turtle, you are so slow! What can you possibly teach me?" Tano did not get angry. He simply said, "Sit by the water, young lion. If you listen, the river itself will speak." Arion sat impatiently, but slowly he began to hear the gentle sound of water flowing, the rustle of the reeds, the distant call of a bird. For the first time he realized how many voices existed in silence. Tano said softly, "The universe speaks in whispers. Stars are born in silence. Trees grow without noise. Rivers carve mountains patiently. If you do not learn to listen, you will never hear the truth of life." Arion stayed by the river for hours. That night, under the stars, he thought about the turtle's words. He remembered how his father always paused before making decisions, how the wise owl listened before answering, how even the smallest ant followed signals from its colony. Listening was everywhere. The next morning, Arion decided to change. Instead of roaring at the young cubs, he listened to their games. Instead of interrupting the older lions, he sat quietly and absorbed their stories of past battles. Instead of rushing at prey, he watched carefully, waiting for the right moment. Slowly, he became wiser, calmer, and more confident. When the savannah faced danger, a terrible drought dried the rivers, and many animals grew weak. The herds did not know where to find water. All the animals gathered in fear. The elephants trumpeted, the zebras cried, the birds screeched, everyone spoke at once. But Arion remembered the turtle's words. He raised his paw and said, "Be silent." The animals stopped and listened. Then Arion said, "Let us listen, not to each other's panic, but to the earth." He closed his eyes and focused. Far in the distance, he heard faint sounds of running water under the ground. He remembered the old turtle had once spoken of hidden springs near the mountains. Arion led the animals there, guiding them not with his strength, but with his careful listening. And when they reached the mountains, they found a flowing spring, fresh and clear. The animals cheered, and Arion became their true leader. That night, under a sky full of stars, Arion looked up and whispered, "Strength is my body, but listening is my mind." The animals around him learned something too. The zebra understood to listen to the wind for danger. The elephant realized to listen to the footsteps of her herd. The owl already knew that silence is often the best teacher. The savannah flourished again, and Arion was remembered not only as the strongest lion, but as the lion who learned to listen. And perhaps the greatest truth he discovered was this: confidence in speaking does not come from talking more, but from listening deeply. When you listen, your words carry the power of truth, and when you speak, others listen back. That's the story of Aryan, the lion who learned the science of listening and the courage of speaking with confidence. Once upon a time, in a busy city full of voices, lived a boy named Daniel. Daniel had a big dream. He wanted to travel the world and speak with people from every country. He wanted to share ideas, make friends, and learn stories from others. But there was one problem. His English was weak, and whenever he tried to listen to conversations, the words felt like a storm, fast and confusing. At school, when the teacher spoke, Daniel often caught the first few words but lost the rest. When he tried to watch English movies, the characters spoke so quickly that he felt lost. And when tourists visited his town, he wanted to speak with them, but fear held his tongue. He thought, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe English is only for others, not for me. One evening, Daniel sat by his small desk with his notebook open, staring at the English words he had written. He felt frustrated. Just then, his grandfather walked into the room. His grandfather was an old man who had once been a traveller and storyteller. He looked at Daniel and said, "Why the long face, my boy?" Daniel sighed and answered, "Grandfather, I try to learn English, but when I listen, everything feels too fast. When I speak, my voice feels weak. I don't think I will ever be confident." The old man smiled gently and sat beside him. "Let me tell you something, Daniel. Many years ago, I was like you. I wanted to learn another language. Do you know how I learned?" Daniel shook his head. His grandfather leaned closer. "I learned by listening. Not just hearing, but truly listening. At first, I didn't understand, but every day I listened to small pieces, like drops of water. One drop by one drop fills the jar, and one word by one word builds the language." Daniel thought about this. The old man continued, "Listening is like planting seeds. At first you see nothing, but if you water the seeds quietly, patiently, one day a green sprout appears, and that sprout grows into a strong tree." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He thought about seeds, about drops of water, about patience. The next morning, he decided to change his way of learning. He woke up early and played an English podcast. At first, he understood only a few words, hello, morning, thank you, but he listened every day. On the bus to school, he listened again. After classes, instead of playing games, he watched short videos with English subtitles. When he walked in the market, he listened to tourists carefully, not worrying if he understood everything. And slowly, something began to change. 1 month passed. Daniel noticed that when the teacher spoke, his ears caught more words than before. 2 months passed, and he began to guess meanings from context, even if he didn't know every word. 3 months later, Daniel surprised himself when he watched a movie. He laughed at the jokes, not because of the subtitles, but because he actually understood. But the real test came when a traveller from Canada visited the town. The man asked Daniel for directions. For a moment, Daniel froze, fear rushing in. But then he remembered his grandfather's words, "One drop by one drop fills the jar." He took a deep breath, listened carefully to the man's question, and answered in simple English. The traveller smiled and said, "Wow, your English is very good. Thank you." At that moment, Daniel's heart lifted. He realized something powerful. Listening was not just about ears. It was about patience, courage, and trust in the process. Confidence did not mean speaking without mistakes. Confidence meant believing that his voice was worth hearing. From then on, Daniel listened every day. He read out loud to practice pronunciation. He repeated words like a singer repeating songs, and he spoke with his friends in English, even if they made mistakes together. Step by step, English became part of his life. And one evening, years later, Daniel stood at the airport with his suitcase. His dream was finally coming true. He was traveling to another country. As he boarded the plane, he whispered, "Thank you, grandfather. You taught me the secret. Listening is the key. Patience is the door, and confidence is the path." He smiled, ready to meet the world, not afraid anymore. That's the story of Daniel, how he learned that English listening is like planting seeds. Daily practice, small steps, patience, and courage lead to big growth. This story is about a person who struggled at first, but learned how to practice English effectively every day. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this motivational story. The journey of Emma. The journey of Emma, from struggle to confidence in English. Emma Emma was a young woman who always dreamed of speaking English fluently. She loved listening to English songs, watching movies and reading stories, but she often felt frustrated because she couldn't understand everything. Every time she tried to speak, she hesitated, worried she might make mistakes. One day, Emma decided to change her approach. She realized that improving English wasn't about memorizing words or grammar rules alone. It was about practice, consistency, and listening carefully. Emma made a plan. Every morning she would listen to an English podcast for 20 minutes. She would write down new words and sentences, repeat them aloud, and try to use them in her own conversations. She also watched movies with subtitles in English, slowly learning how words sounded in real speech. At first, Emma couldn't catch all the words. Sometimes she understood only 1 or 2 sentences out of 10. But she didn't give up. She told herself, every time I listen, I improve a little. Every time I speak, I learn something new. After a few months, Emma noticed a huge difference. She could understand more words in movies, podcasts, and conversations. Her pronunciation improved, and she started speaking more confidently with friends and even strangers online. Emma also discovered a powerful technique, shadowing. She would listen to a short sentence, pause, and repeat it exactly like the speaker, matching the tone, speed, and emotion. This method helped her improve both listening and speaking at the same time. 1 year later, Emma could watch English movies without subtitles, listen to podcasts easily, and even join online discussion groups. Her confidence soared, and she realized that small daily steps make a huge difference. The most important lesson Emma learned was this: improving English, especially listening skills, is not about speed or perfection. It's about patience, practice, and persistence. Anyone who listens, repeats, and uses English every day can improve, just like she did. The story of Emma teaches us that consistent practice, daily listening, and courage to speak are the keys to mastering English. Don't be afraid of mistakes. They are part of learning. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep learning every day. Oh, thank you for watching! If you enjoyed Emma's story, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more motivational stories and English learning tips. Remember, practice listening every day, speak with confidence, and your English skills will grow faster than you imagine. Welcome to my channel, where we explore amazing stories, learn fascinating facts, and discover the mysteries of the universe. Today, we have a very special story, an educational journey through space, galaxies, black holes, dark matter, and the wonders of the universe. Sit back, relax, and let your mind travel among the stars as we learn together. The journey through the universe, from stars to black holes. Once upon a time, there was a curious young explorer named Alex. Alex loved learning about the universe. Every night, he would look up at the sky and wonder about the countless stars, galaxies, and planets that filled the vast space above. He wanted to understand how everything in the universe worked and what secrets it held. One evening, Alex started reading about stars. Stars are enormous balls of hot gas that shine brightly like our sun. Some stars are small and burn quietly for billions of years, while others are massive and explode as supernovae, scattering their elements into space. These elements, like carbon, oxygen, and iron, are the building blocks of planets, life, and even humans. Alex realized that every atom in his body had once been part of a star. As he continued his journey, Alex learned about galaxies. Galaxies are enormous systems containing billions of stars, planets, dust, and gas, all bound together by gravity. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is just one of billions of galaxies in the universe. Some galaxies are spiral-shaped, like pinwheels, while others are elliptical or irregular. Alex was amazed by the idea that the universe is so vast that even light, traveling at 300,000 kilometers per second, takes millions or billions of years to reach us from distant galaxies. Then Alex discovered something even more mysterious: black holes. Black holes are regions in space where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape. They form when massive stars collapse after their life ends. At the center of many galaxies, including the Milky Way, there is a supermassive black hole with a mass millions or billions of times greater than the Sun. Alex was fascinated, but also a little scared of these cosmic giants. Black holes are invisible, but scientists can detect them by observing the effect they have on nearby stars and gas. As he studied further, Alex came across an even stranger concept: dark matter. Dark matter is an invisible substance that makes up most of the matter in the universe. We cannot see it directly, but scientists know it exists because of its gravitational effects on galaxies and clusters of galaxies. Dark matter acts like an invisible skeleton holding galaxies together. Without it, galaxies would fly apart and the universe would look very different. Alex realized that there is so much in the universe that we cannot see, yet it shapes everything around us. Alex then explored the idea of dark energy, an even more mysterious force. Dark energy is causing the universe to expand faster and faster over time. Scientists still don't fully understand what dark energy is, but it makes up about 70% of the universe. Alex thought about how tiny and fragile our planet is in such a vast, ever-expanding cosmos. During his journey, Alex imagined traveling near a black hole. He learned about time dilation, where time moves slower near a black hole compared to far away. He imagined watching a star orbit a black hole, moving faster and faster, while time outside that region continued normally. The universe, Alex realized, is full of strange and beautiful phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality. He also learned about nebula, clouds of gas and dust that are nurseries for new stars. Some nebulae glow brightly because of the radiation from nearby stars, while others are dark, hiding new stars yet to be born. Alex thought about how the universe is constantly recycling matter. Stars are born, they live, they die, and their elements create new stars, planets, and eventually life. As he continued exploring, Alex discovered exoplanets, planets outside our solar system. Some exoplanets are rocky like Earth, while others are gas giants like Jupiter. Scientists have even found planets in the habitable zone, where conditions might allow liquid water and possibly life. Alex dreamed about what it would be like to visit these distant worlds, even if just in imagination. Finally, Alex reflected on the beauty of the cosmic web, the large-scale structure of the universe. Galaxies are not scattered randomly. They form clusters, superclusters, and filaments connected like a giant web. Between these filaments are vast voids, empty regions of space with almost no matter. The universe is not chaotic. It has structure, order, and patterns that are both mysterious and breathtaking. Alex realized an important lesson. The universe is vast, beautiful, and full of mysteries we're only beginning to understand. Even though humans are tiny compared to the cosmos, our curiosity, imagination, and scientific discoveries allow us to explore the stars, black holes, and galaxies. Every discovery we make opens new questions, reminding us that learning never ends. Moral: the story of Alex teaches us that curiosity and learning can take us anywhere, even to the farthest reaches of the universe. By asking questions, exploring, and observing, we can understand the mysteries of the cosmos and our place in it. The universe is not only a place of science, it is a source of wonder, inspiration, and endless learning.